Hello and welcome everyone to the main event. My name is Mita Sani and I'm really pleased to have you all here today. This is our highest subscribed podcast this year, all around neurodiversity in the workplace. And it just goes to show that supporting our people, whatever their challenges, however we can support them, is so important. So welcome everyone. Just while we're waiting for Flo to jump in, she's having a few technical challenges. I just wanted to do a bit of housekeeping. So there may be a few of you that have been along before, so I apologise if you've heard this all before, but just a little bit of housekeeping, and then hopefully by then we'll be able to welcome Flo into the room. So the main event is run by the main group. We're talent consultants. We've been doing this for 25 years plus, so we really understand business and we understand people. We understand organizations and what drives them, and we understand what employees want more than just a job description. You know, everybody wants to belong and everybody wants that feeling of being understood. And so that, I guess, is the sweet spot of what these podcasts are all about. So today, the neurodiverse workplace is blown up. You know, people are so much more open about neurodiversity. And so I think it's really important that we talk about it. So for the next 40 minutes, up to about 1:45, we're going to be talking through all things neurodiversity. I'm just looking at some comments in the room. Hello and welcome, everyone. Are you able to see me? Just give me a hi, give me a yes, give me a I can hear you, give me a thumbs up, give me anything so I know you're there. Yeah, let's do a little tech chat, little tech check. There's a chat box. Brilliant. Rebecca's saying yes, so that's good. I had some people saying that they couldn't see anything. Sarah, can you see me now? Okay, brilliant. I think I'm getting lots of yeses. Thank you. All right, this is good. Right, we're cooking now. Okay, so the main group podcast, about 45 minutes, and we like to make it interactive. You're already using the chat box, so please make sure that you use that chat box to make comments, ask questions. I want this session for you to be as powerful and impactful that you can take stuff back to your workplace and apply it straight away. That's what this is about. Now, we also have a poll. Now, what we like to do with the poll is get a feel for what are your challenges at this time. So the poll today is asking, when it comes to neurodiversity in the workplace, what is your area of greatest challenge? So the first comment that I've put, the first option, is about open conversations and awareness. Are you able to talk to your neurodiverse members of the team? And sometimes you might notice symptoms. Sometimes you might notice that they were one way one day and another day, and you're not quite sure what's going on. You may have noticed their eye contact isn't necessarily straight to your eyes, and people with different neurospicy traits are on, have different ways of communicating. So it's really important that you're able to support them and show them that it's an open environment where everyone is accepted. There's no right or wrong. We've just got to make it right for everyone to thrive and shine. So that's the first one. Is it difficult to have open conversations and awareness of the members of your team and what their neurodiverse traits are? The second option, and I'm sorry, I've got a little typo in there, is supporting your neurodiverse team. So actually, what kind of support can you give them? What if they explain to you that I have ADHD, I have autism, I have dyslexia, dyspraxia, there's a number. And when we get Flo in the room, Flo will talk us through the science of it. Is that where you're challenged? Are you finding it difficult to find tools and ways to give them support so that they can really thrive? And within that, which is actually our highest ranking poll at the moment, is practical solutions. And the final one is losing staff. Haven't got any votes for that yet. But what I would like is that if there's something other than these options, open conversations and awareness, supporting your neurodiverse team, practical solutions, or losing staff, then let me know in the chat box. And I am going to just literally have a quick look at the chat box to see if there's any questions. So yes, so Sarah, you will be getting a recording. Hi, Flo. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to answer some questions in the chat and then I'll come on over. Sarah, yes, there's a recording of today. And I think that is so important because sometimes everyone in the room, everyone that's signed up, I was saying this is our most popular webinar, most popular podcast. We've had over 200 different companies sign up today. It fills my heart with joy. And I know Flo will be so pleased to hear that as well. Sometimes you are already enlightened and you know what your organization needs, but some of your teammates, maybe leadership, aren't aware or aren't ready. You could share this recording with them. And when you share the recording back, they can watch it in double time. So it hopefully is going to share and spread the knowledge and the word even more to help our neurodiverse members of the organization. And Carla, we don't have PowerPoint slides, but you will get a copy of this recording. So hopefully that will then give you something you can refer to. But what we will be doing is sending out a 10-point checklist of practical solutions that you can apply in your workplace. We'll send that in an email to you all this afternoon as well. And I suppose then it now goes without fail for me to welcome our special guest today, Florence Weber-Zuanigh. Welcome, Florence. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Mita, albeit a bit delayed.
Not at all. Not at all. I was just doing the housekeeping and getting everyone settled in. And we were just running through the poll, actually, Flo. And before we go into the topic, I just wanted to talk to you about the poll as well, because I did this without you and you are the expert in this space. I was asking the room that when it came to neurodiversity in the workplace, what were the areas that they found of greatest challenge at the moment? And we spoke about open conversations and awareness. We spoke about supporting the neurodiverse team, which I actually put a typo in, so I apologize for that. We spoke about practical solutions, which actually is currently running at 44%. And we also had the option of losing staff, which as of yet hasn't got any votes. And that really reassures me that actually everyone is doing supportive gestures and processes. But today, Flo is going to walk us through from beginning to end. And I'm going to do the agenda, Flo, because I think it's really important that everyone knows what we're going to cover. So we're going to talk about the link between neurodiversity and mental health, because actually people with neurodiversity are more likely to have stress and find it more difficult to talk about. The fact that actually people in the workplace aren't always accommodating, not because they don't want to be, but because they don't know how to be. So we're going to cover the practical solutions and actually therefore understanding how the workplace can exacerbate stress, anxiety and burnout. And then we're going to talk about practical and compassionate ways to support neurodivergent employees to reduce that stress and just create an environment where everyone is accepted. I think for me, that is my biggest driver, is for people to belong to belong to an organization, but to have that feeling of belonging and that feeling of being valued. So we are really lucky to have Flo in the room today. Flo owns a training organization called Diversity in the Boardroom. Flo is a coach and facilitator who's actually working with one of our clients at the moment, doing some amazing work. And Flo, you have been a true advocate for neurodiversity in the workplace for such a long time. Tell me what it is for you that makes neurodiversity such an important topic.
I think first it's when you've seen firsthand some organizations that have the structures and the funding to make it a reality, to really foster psychological safety, but sometimes it falls flat. Sometimes when it comes to mental health and neurodiversity, this is such like an intricate topic, and people sometimes are worried about doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing. And there is that misconception that you need a whole lot of money to make it a reality.
Yeah.
And sometimes very small tweaks that don't even need to go through HR can already make like the world of a difference for an individual.
And I think that's amazing, because there will be people in this room today that aren't from HR, that are direct managers who may have members of their own team. And what I love, and what I was saying earlier as well, is that I hope, and the plan is that we can give tips that they can take away and apply straight away. And that is such good use of time, but also gives everyone that feeling of, yeah, we can make a difference, we can make a change, and we can do that quickly, which I think is important. So we're going to send everyone away with greater confidence in talking about neurodiversity and mental health in the workplace. and those simple, actionable strategies and a deeper understanding. So, Flo, I do love to start with some stats, because actually 15 to 20% of the global population are neurodivergent. I never realized. I've got 2 out of 3 of my children are neurodivergent, so that's a 67% for my offspring. But in the workplace, 1 in 7 people have some form of neurodiversity. And that's huge. And we know that diverse and working environments where diversity is really prevalent are more successful, have stronger bottom lines, higher rates of retention, more engaged and productive workforces. It's like tick, 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 tick. But when it comes to neurodiversity, it still feels that we've got a lot of work to do. Why is that? What's going on out there?
So there's loads of reasons. First of all, most workplaces have to work with people with different generations and coming from different backgrounds. And it means that the kind of bias that different people might be experiences can be quite wide. Or the fact also that a lot of conditions are perceived as, being linear. So either you're a little bit this or you're a lot this. And actually it's more like dials. So it means that 2 people that have the exact same diagnosis on paper might be experiencing it widely differently. And a lot of organizations want to have some kind of blanket ways of working that are going to work for everyone at all times. And it's just not true. There is things that you're going to be able to take away from today, start implementing, that are going to help, but you're still always going to have to stay curious and stay willing to hear the little tweaks that are needed here and there.
Flo, I remember that word, that little phrase from you from previous webinars and podcasts we've done, stay curious. And I love that, because essentially what you're saying is that employers like to have a challenge, create a solution, say we've created a solution, please apply it out, management team, and then they're hands off. And what you're saying is that actually this isn't a black and white solution. It's not 50 shades of grey, but a number of shades of different ways to approach solutions. And so really what we're going to be tooling everybody up with today is a range of ways that they can support and enhance neurodiverse members of the team's success and happiness in the workplace.
Yes, exactly. And also keeping in mind that you might have some neurotypical employees. So by neurotypical, we mean people that would be following your expected pattern of productions, following some standard ways of working. They might also need things that are going to be helpful either for their circumstances or just helps them balance things a bit better. And also you definitely have employees that are neurodivergent and don't know it yet, or some that have been recently diagnosed and are still figuring out the kinks about what could help. So this is where, that curiosity is definitely helpful, because it's like a living and breathing organism to be neuro-inclusive. It's not something that gets at some point set in stone. Yes, we've done it.
So, yes, Sarah's asking if everyone is muted because her dog is going crazy. Good news is, Sarah, we can't hear you, so let the dog go crazy, as it's more about your concentration, bless you. But yeah, no, all good. We hopefully everyone can hear. And again, if you've got any technical challenges, please just pop it in the little group chat and we can get it sorted. Flo, before we go into looking at solutions and ways to support, can we just cover off the different types of neurodiversity? We all think we know. I know my 2 and what they've got, but it would be great to just run through that so that we know that we've pulled that all together.
Yes, absolutely. And if at any point we use a term that you're not too comfortable with, just ask in the chat and we'll let you know. So first and foremost, about all of those terms that we're going to talk about, I know it can be uncomfortable. You're like, oh, did I use the right one? Did I make a mistake? It's the same as if you're making a cup of tea. If you're making a cup of tea and you screw it up, you're just going to be like, oh, that wasn't right. I'm going to try again. You're not going to be making a fuss over it. You're not going to sweat it. That's fine. You'll just try again. Exactly the same here. So when we talk about neurodiversity, it's kind of like the overarching thing, which includes all of the different ways for someone's brain, nervous system, spinal cord to work. So that would include people that are neurotypical and again are able to perform what would be standardly expected in terms of day-to-day activity at work, follow a standard 9 to 5 and all of that, as well as people that are neurodivergent. The neurodivergent umbrella is actually probably a lot wider than you might think. Very often we think about autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia. That's kind of like the big four.
The main ones, yeah.
Actually, it can include OCD, PTSD, depression, Tourette's. It can include there's not an exhaustive list, essentially. So that's kind of where we're starting from. The good news is a lot of things that you can put in place to support and to help can help people with different conditions, including people that are neurotypical. So that's the good news, I guess.
I think that's wonderful, because actually what we're saying is we're all on a scale of some sort, right? Like, even if we're neurotypical, that means we're at this end of the scale, and depending on your neurodiversity, you will present at a different part of it. And actually, the being curious and the starting the conversation isn't, oh, let's just label somebody with a type of neurodiversity. What we're saying is, tell me about yourself and tell me about the ways that you like to work or things that challenge you in a workplace.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of people are not necessarily forthcoming about their condition. Some are going to be like just with HR or just with their immediate team, but some are not comfortable just basically sharing that. 1 in 3 neurodivergent employees already experience discrimination in the workplace. So this is a big factor. Very often, like the long, road to getting a diagnosis can be riddled with trauma. So if you've ever had like a traumatic surgery or accident or something, maybe you're not going to want to share that experience with your colleagues, but it's the same with someone that got a neurodivergent diagnosis. So this is why staying curious, not nosy, is really like the sweet spot. So people can feel safe enough to ask for accommodation, knowing that they're not going to be asked about the whole background behind their request. Yeah.
And so I think that what comes to mind for me from that is, how does everybody as an employer, Creep is just actually asking, and Creep, I hope I pronounced your name right, is just asking for us to just confirm the main 4. So we've got dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, and ADHD.
Yeah.
I think these are
kind of people mean usually.
Yeah. I think, and when I speak to my kids, they're at university now, they'll be going into the workplace. And I've seen in the 15 years, most recently, when people have started talking about their neurodiversity more, the response, whether it's a verbal response or a reaction or a discrimination, the response to somebody opening up about it is we've come so far. We've got so far to go, but we have come so far because actually these are superpowers. These are people's strengths. If we are able to work to their strengths, actually we can channel greatness when we allow people to actually work, in that way. I was just looking at some workplace strengths of people with dyslexia. 84% have better spatial reasoning, 75% better at connecting ideas, and 60% are better at seeing the bigger picture. People with autism show strengths of pattern recognition, accuracy and detail, they're logical problem solvers. And it goes on. I know, even for people with ADHD, they can be hyper focused. And so again, we've just got to take the brakes off what is great potential in our people. And so perhaps it's a mindset shift that needs to start from an employer's culture. Like, where do you think it needs to begin? What's the starting point for an organization?
So there's a big problem as well in terms of like public discourse, which lies around the pathologization of neurodivergent people. So the thing is, like, when you really focus on those things as pathologies, you're going to focus on the cause and the cure. But if you focus on the cause and the cure, then you can spend your time on awareness and inclusion.
Yeah.
So this is really that, like, forget about things such as paracetamol causing autism and all of that. This is irrelevant in what you're to achieve as a workplace. Because yeah, as Mita said, like the figures speak for themselves. They've also done some research around groups of people that were just neurotypical or just neurodivergent versus teams that were neurodiverse, so including people with all different neurotypes. And the group that's actually truly neurodiverse clearly outperforms in terms of problem solving, speed, and all of that. So the case for neurodiversity has been made time and time again. So cause and cure are not going to help you get there.
Yeah, that's not the responsibility of an employer. The responsibility of an employer is what? What would you say? Like if you were to put it in a sentence?
Not even a sentence, 2 words: psychological safety.
And what does that mean? What does that mean for you?
So if you manage to foster psychological safety, it means that not only people know that they can speak up, but they're not going to be asked for like background checks when they do. They know that they're going to be heard. They know that there's going to be action, and they know that there are not going to be any kind of discriminations that follows up. So that's because this is really the issue when it comes to both mental health specifically and neurodivergence as a whole. This is when people are not feeling comfortable to share their needs. This is where they can try to mask their symptoms, and masking at work can have really dire consequences on anyone's mental health. So this is really the thing: psychological safety and being honest also as an organization, because as much as in theory you might be going for psychological safety, is it how people generally feel in practice? There's often a gap there.
Yeah, it's not a sentence or a phrase above the door. This is a psychological safe environment, and then nothing changes on the ground. It's about the practices we put into place. So actually, what you spoke about, not addressing it, when I was learning more about neurodiversity in the workplace, and the link between people being misunderstood and the level of stress and burnout and just fatigue, as you said about masking and having to, turn up in a way that isn't their natural rhythm, it's very debilitating for them, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you're not going to see it at work at all. You're going to be like, oh, maybe even assuming that person is neurotypical, but maybe it means that once they're at home or as soon as they left the door, they're unable to carry on with any social life, with their day-to-day normal activities. So not assuming is also a good thing that can help you stay curious.
And I was reading about the fact that actually the majority of policies for organizations naturally will cover the average brain, the neurotypical brain. Even performance reviews, they don't think about communication style. They don't think about the length of the performance review. They don't think about the fact that for some people, being asked a question on the spot is difficult. And as you said, Flo, actually the processes and the tools that we're going to be talking about are actually for everyone. If we can apply these correctly, they're going to support neurodiverse people and neurotypical people. So it's about best practice. It's about being human and as you said, staying curious. And that's what's going to get it right, and will actually bring the stress of the whole organization down.
Yes, definitely. And I see Sarah mentioning as well is menopause falling into this. So it wouldn't fall necessarily as a neurodivergence in itself, as this is like you've got like the bulk of the menopause that you've got to go through, but loads of things that can be put in place to be more inclusive for neurodivergent employees are actually going to be helpful as well for someone who's going through menopause.
Yeah. Indeed, because as Heather's also mentioned, the barrier is often the person's mental health itself. And then that is what makes it difficult for an employer to manage, because it might not be the neurodiversity that we're spotting, it's the symptoms of not understanding and supporting it in the right way that's creating the challenge. And of course, menopause falls into that place. We do lots of webinars around that as well. It's because, again, it doesn't fit into a box. No two people are the same, even if they're in menopause. No two people are the same. But actually, Flo, you know, you think about any sort of disease, any sort of difficulty, no one's going through it in a similar way. Every return to work meeting after somebody's been off sick, or if somebody is asking for flexibility, it has to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, doesn't it? Yes, we have an outline policy that we run as an organization, but we apply it based on the business requirements, organizational requirements, and that person's individual needs. And God, it sounds simple when you say it like that. Just have a conversation. But, you know, if we were to start from, you know, obviously for us as the main group, we help our clients attract the right talent. We put a question which asks, you know, is there any reason why you might not be able to do this role? Is there any reason why you would want to have special support in your working environment? And not everyone answers it then, but then I know that the next time that's asked is in somebody's induction, and then perhaps in their weekly or bi-monthly meeting. But what would the system be in an organization to make sure that they give employees every opportunity to share where they're at and what's going on for them?
So ideally, as part of your hiring practices, you're already going to have some accommodations that are there for everyone. So and then you have as well the question, do you need further accommodation?
Yeah.
But you can have things like explaining exactly the process, what's going to be expected of them in an interview, what exactly they should prepare on their end, what they should expect to receive, timings, who they're going to meet, how many people they're going to meet, all of that. So everybody's got that as kind of standard.
Yeah.
As well as if this is like...
Oh, I have lost Flo. Can anyone else? Can I just have a little shout from the room if everyone can still see me, or if they can still see Flo? I'm having technical challenges. I'm really sorry. There you are. You're back. You're back, Flo. I lost you for a minute.
Yeah, so basically you've got those basic accommodations, and then you add on, you can still offer on top, because then it sounds more genuine, essentially, rather than asking the question. Because when this is like the first time you're hearing about an organization or your first interaction with an organization, you don't know if they're doing that for legal purposes or if they are genuinely neuro-inclusive.
Yeah.
So sometimes people know about their diagnosis for a long time, but it's going to take them a lot of time to actually feel like the organization genuinely cares, the people they work with genuinely care, and then to come out with it. So that's why, like, the first opportunity you got, showing your true colors in terms of neuro-inclusion, got to go for it.
Absolutely. And even right down to, I'm doing some coaching with graduates at the moment, which I do in my spare time. I just want to help these young people have the best chance of finding that role after uni. And if they have neurodiversity, I say to them, let them know, because you will get extra time to do the tests. And I think it's really important, because ultimately people need to have a fair chance, and everyone has different strengths and challenges. It doesn't mean it's a weakness. And I think that's really, for me, the biggest message is it's not a weakness. It's not a negative. It's just, we're just different. And if there's one thing we knew about the human race from day dot, is that we're all different. We just have a comment from Philippa saying about a brain injury. Gosh. So Philippa says she had a brain injury 19 years ago, and during that recovery, she really wanted specific timeframes and was told that every brain injury is different. Yeah, exactly. Everything is so unique to the individual that you need an employer that sees you and doesn't think, oh, but I already have somebody with ADHD, so I know exactly how to support them. No, it's about you and your situation. Kathy's asking a question. Can we put special support measures into somebody's performance review?
So I would say yes and no.
Okay.
The no being that you need to make sure they understand they are not being judged on it, that it's not part of how you judge their performance, but you could have something around them um, managing up in a way that they can be forthcoming about what they need. So this is something that's a bit more, a bit more open. And anything around special support or measures, this is something that you don't have to wait for a performance review to talk about that. Like if you've got like direct reports or even like team meetings, this is something that you can open with, being like, oh, our team meetings are structured as such, happen at that time. Does it work for everyone? Do you guys have suggestion? How could you actually make it more meaningful for all of you? So you don't have to wait for like those big milestones to make sure that everybody feels that their needs are being listened to.
And supported.
Exactly.
And Flo, some of the, as you said, some of the adjustments that everyone can go back and make straight away in their environment are things such as working environments where people put these meetings in back to back and insist on having a lot of noise in an environment. Not everybody can function in a noisy environment. Or something that I'm probably guilty of is being quite broad in when I'm giving an not being clear, not being specific. Some people can't process if it's not specific. Again, one of the things I've seen is people process time differently. Sometimes putting rigidity or not giving time frames, just giving a specific time can put people under pressure unnecessarily. And just how we think about what good looks like, especially if we're neurotypical, we almost have this unconscious bias about what good looks like. I'm literally just pulling from some of the sort of areas I've experienced. Like, what would you say are other areas that are important for employees to think about that can just change on a day-to-day basis, that can be implemented for no extra cost and with very little effort?
So yeah, there is a lot. So as you mentioned, there is anything around sensory inputs where you can make sure that you've got like a dedicated space within the office that would be further away from the kitchen, from the toilets. So there is no, like smell that can be disturbing, a place where the lights can be dimmed, where people know that this is supposed to be a quiet zone. This is not somewhere to like speak out loud or anything like that. So basically like a low stimulation zone. So at least you've got that ready and anyone should be able to access it.
Yeah.
Then you can have things that are a little bit easier, I'd say. I mean, easier. That doesn't require an office reshuffle. So always having the 3 Ps in any meeting invite: purpose, process, payoff. So first of all, people know what this is about. They're not going to freak out. They're not going to imagine anything. They know exactly how the meeting is going to be done. Is it someone presenting? Are we expected to bring in anything? Or are we just here to respond? And what's supposed to be the outcome of the meeting? Is a decision supposed to be made? Are roles and responsibilities supposed to be discussed? So already you've got that in place. Or things such as, it's called body doubling, which probably doesn't tell you much from the name if you haven't heard about it. But if you've got any recurring deadlines in your business, I would strongly advise you to do that. So if you've got any forecasts that need to be done, I don't know, on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis, anything like that, you just schedule with your team a time, and it can be online, it can be in a room, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But this is a time where everybody does it at the same time. It's not about talking to each other or anything like that, but there is something about the being together in doing the same task that really helps with focus. And it's not, again, for neurodivergent employees. It can help anyone, including neurotypical people. And honestly, I know it sounds really, really easy and a bit too easy to be something that works, but try it once and see it can make miracles.
And I think it's tried different things, isn't it? We've got a checklist going out later that has 10 different ways employers can support, and I'll read some of them. You obviously know it all already, Flo, but I just thought it'd be good to pull it all together. But actually, there are going to be some things that work, but I think the employee will tell you what works for them. You might not be able to make reasonable adjustments for all of them, but you could say, let's try, can we agree on trying these two for the next couple of weeks, and then have a little chat and see how that's gone. Would that something like that work?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about really having that open conversation. So, for example, if you implement body doubling, one person says it doesn't work for them, but then they're still falling behind on deadlines, then this is a question. Like, oh, I know you said that you didn't love body doubling, or you didn't feel it was helpful for you. What could work? Like, help me help you. But
Yeah.
it really needs to be like an open discussion and open questions, as opposed to you've got to figure it out.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do.
And that then brings the fact that as this manager or team leader, or this advocate for supporting and getting the best out of people, their role is to achieve the business and the organizational requirements. So you do have to, and you can say that the deadline isn't movable, but we can create an earlier deadline. Maybe that means that if you do for any reason not meet it, then you've got a second deadline, but that deadline isn't movable. Now that will, again, whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical, people will feel that stress and pressure, but it's inevitable. Is that fair for me to say? Like, that's how I'm looking at it from one side. How would we look at it from support of the neurodivergent workforce?
Yes, stress is, it doesn't matter if this is the kind of job you do that's inherently stressful, or if this is like a period that's particularly stressful. What tends to matter is how you experience it. So, do you feel like you have agency, or that you can have an impact on decisions being made? Do you feel like you're being supported? So it's not necessarily the stress itself, it's more everything that kind of revolves around it.
Yeah.
So to take your example about the deadline can't be moved, this is about being like, okay, the deadline can't be moved. Do you have suggestion? Do you think that maybe we should do that as two different documents or two different events? Like, it's really about always having that open conversation and showing the willingness, so they really feel that support throughout, even in tough periods.
Yeah, and knowing, again, the clarity, I think, is really important, because sometimes I see what happens in a workplace is people that are neurotypical have feelings but can't have a label on it, and therefore feel like they can't put their hand up and say, hey, I'm struggling a little bit. Then they start to feel a little bit like, well, why is that person getting all that support when I'm feeling like I need some support? I don't have a label, so I can't say why I need that support. Actually, if you foster an environment of support, success, engagement, positivity, everybody has a voice that they can use to say. Would something like an anonymous survey saying, we're just doing a grand sweep of the organization, want to get an understanding, do you have, like, what would 5 questions be that an employer could put on that anonymous survey?
I'm a massive fan of anonymous surveys, so yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I guess first and foremost, when you do that, you've got to be, again, very honest. Like, when are you gonna disclose the results? Are you gonna disclose the results? What are the next steps?
Yeah.
Because if this is just like a random anonymous survey and that you've got some employees that are already kind of checked out, they're not gonna do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you say, we're sending it then, we're gonna analyze the results, go through that, and come back with some suggestion by that date,
Yeah.
they know that it's genuinely gonna be heard, and this is when they're gonna engage. And then 5 questions can be around, like, do you feel like you can speak up at work? Do you feel like you're getting, there is risk for you to have consequences if you speak up at work? Or do you feel you're going to be listened to? And having also like some open boxes for comments.
Yes.
This is always helpful. And just making sure that they know exactly what anonymous means. So is it anonymous, but all the line managers are going to have access to the results and might be able to be like, oh, that way of typing sounds like X, or that way of phrasing it sounds like that person. So it's really putting a bit of, I guess, pageantry, for lack of a better word, to just show that this is generally like a show of good faith from the organization. and that's
Yeah.
it's gonna lead somewhere.
Yeah, and why, to say, we understand that this is a journey we've started. It's definitely not a journey we've perfected. We're ever improving, but to do that, we want to do that with you, because you hold the answers, and to help us support you in that, would you be able to, it doesn't have to be 5 questions, it could be 10, whatever, but usually 5 to 10 is probably the maximum sort of time span people want to spend on sharing, especially if it's open boxes. But within that, you could also say, that we have whether it's a mental health first aider or a neurodiversity specialist, that if you'd like a one-to-one, this is the number to call. And that again gives people an opportunity to speak up when they might not have felt that there's an environment for them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, because usually that's when people start to open up, obviously, like the basis being the sanctity of an anonymous survey. And then by showing that you're following up, and you can then, indeed go further and be like, some people mentioned X in the survey or specific situations. We want to just show you that, this is how we're going to tackle it with confidentiality, but please come with more. And but that, indeed, an anonymous survey is a great place to start.
Good. I think that's always for an employer who thinks, I don't know where to start. That will give them direction. But I loved what you said about make sure you give clarity on why you're doing it, what you're going to do with the results, and how that's going to impact people, like make them feel part of the journey and that they're going to make a difference. They have a voice. We've got a few comments in the room. Now, I promised 12:45, but I also know that I jumped on a couple of minutes late, and Flo, we got you a little bit later. So if it's all right with you, and if it's all right with everyone in the room, we're probably going to go on for another 5-10 minutes. If you need to jump out, we absolutely understand and we thank you. But if you can stay on, it would be great, because we've still got some really good stuff that we want to cover. Flo, before we go into some of the content we're going to cover, I just want to cover a few questions from the chat. So Jane asks, isn't it important to document something to show that you are properly supporting them? Yeah, what would you say about that? It's a good question.
Yes, absolutely. But this is something that you can do over email. It doesn't have to be, like in performance reviews or in that sense.
Yeah.
It can just be an email, just as we've agreed, this is what we're going to implement. And we agreed to review at that point, or that you're going to let me know. It doesn't have to be as formal as a performance review, essentially.
Yeah, I like that. Emails are great for confirmation of agreements and a good trail of audit trail. Philip is asking about body doubling. So the way I think about body doubling is saying to somebody, you know what, I've got a deadline and I need some accountability. Will you sit there and can we work together and let's both bang it out so that, you feel like someone's doing it with me. And it just gives you that bit of motivation and it gives you that bit of oomph. And when you're feeling like you want to step away, you see your colleague still going for it, so you're like, right, I'm going to keep going as well. That's it, right, Flo? Is it any more than that?
No, it's generally just that. And it's especially helpful when you're like a team leader and that you've got some recurring deadlines. That's when it can be most helpful. But even if it's not as formal as that, you just know you personally need that accountability, you can grab any colleague or even any friend and just be like, hey, that time, that day, can you please do something at the same time as I do something?
Yeah.
And weirdly, it works.
It does work. Sana is asking about the 3 Ps. So we had purpose. This was the 3 Ps for a meeting. What were the 3?
Purpose, process, payoff. So the process would be, is someone presenting, or are there specific questions that people are supposed to come with answers to? It's just how the meeting is going to be held, essentially.
Yeah, perfect. Now, Pearl has asked a question. Given that we provide reasonable adjustments, occupational health support, and EAP resources, fantastic, which our staff love, how can we best support and encourage staff to proactively prioritise their own mental health in line with professional guidance? Can I say one thing before you give yours? I think it needs to be set by an example from leadership. I think when leadership demonstrate that they're taking care of their own mental health and vocalize it and talk about it, and you share that they're talking about their mental health and where they're at, you'll suddenly find everyone else prioritizing it and talking about it as well. That's the experience I've seen anyway. What about you, Flo?
I was gonna say leading by example, exactly.
Ah, there we go.
And
Yeah.
and I think there is that idea that it needs to be when you've got a town hall, the CEO is just gonna insist on mental health. But again, it can just be you at the beginning of a meeting with your teams and just being honest about your own needs. And they're gonna be like, oh, and especially if you've got weird needs, let's call it that, just go for it. Like I know that when I had a big team, I had like, I need to focus. So if you want me to review your work, it's going to be at that time and at that time.
Yeah.
And maybe it's weird for some people, but it meant that in return, usually people are more open to share their own needs.
Yeah.
So,
and Angela mentions that there's an online platform for body doubling. Actually, there is so much tech support and apps and platforms to support people with neurodiversity. So if you're in here as somebody with neurodiversity who doesn't know how to bring it up or doesn't feel that they're getting the support, hopefully some of what we've talked about gives you a way to go and talk to a manager or a teammate, but also look for the tools out there, look for the tools that can actually help you, because as much as we think, oh, it's AI, oh, you know, it's cold, it's technical, sometimes we just like the body doubling, having someone online somewhere else. I just think technology has some great solutions. Flo, have you got some experience of that? Have you seen what's out there?
yes, absolutely. And while we're on the topic of technology, there's like a few very quick wins that you can implement. So for example, if you're on a meeting, always use the transcription and the AI summary and make sure that it gets sent to everyone. So some people are going to be better at processing the information out loud or in writing. So at least, you know, everybody's got that option. And if it's actually like a face-to-face meeting and that you're like, oh, they should have taken notes, actually, you've got that option with Google Doc as well. So if you've just got a Google Doc open and you've got, you know, the functionality for speech to text,
yeah,
then you're going to have it there. And then you can still, you know, like forward it to someone.
I think it's fantastic. Yeah. Even voice memos now, you can record a voice memo, it transcripts it straight away. I just think it's phenomenal, the amount of support and things that we didn't even realize we were struggling with. When you find a solution, you're just like, wow, I just feel so much better. I feel so much less stressed and I'm able to do more. So that's fantastic. Now, I wanted to sum things up, Flo. The poll, where it stands at the moment, is that practical solutions were the most polled at the highest at 44%, open conversations and awareness polled at 35%, and then supporting your neurodiverse team, which I guess is probably an umbrella arch of that, came in at 18%. 1% said losing staff. What I would say to anyone is that if you have specific questions or you have an area that hasn't been covered today, both Flo and I are available outside of this. You can tell we just love doing this because we love it. And so don't feel like we're going to click a, turn on a button for billing. We're not. We'll have a chat with you. We'll give you advice. We'll support you. We're here to make sure that your time here can make a difference. Philippa, good question. Will this be transcribed? I'm going to check, because if other tech is upgrading, is Webinar Jam, the platform that we use, is that upgrading as well? That's a very good question. Sorry, I can't answer that at this moment. Becky asked, what did you say was the tool for face-to-face meetings if we use Microsoft? Was it Google Docs?
Google Docs. So you've got the option on Google Docs.
Teams, you can use Fireflies. We use Fireflies with Teams. That does, the meetings and transcripts and everything, records the video as well.
And also, while we're still slightly on the topic of tech, don't hesitate to use ChatGPT or encourage your team members to use ChatGPT when they've got specific needs, because very often there is a bit of like a roundabout discussion where someone goes to HR saying, I've got diagnosis, what do you offer? HR goes back to them, well, what do you need? Well, I don't know, what do you offer? And that can go on for a while. So sometimes just supporting them, being like, do you know that you're, I don't know, sensitive to this, or that you struggle more with this? Yeah. And just like having a little discussion with ChatGPT, and then you've got a kind of a menu of what you might want to try. this is always a great option too.
Yeah, it is a great tool as well, definitely. Flo, I feel like we've whistle-stopped through such a deep topic, and we always make it 45 minutes because we know how precious everyone's time is who's come along. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that's come along and contributed and taken the time out and made this topic a priority. And I hope that you can go away with some tools that you can apply, but also share the recordings or our details for anyone that you feel can help to make neurodiversity and people with neurodivergence supported in the workplace. Because as Flo, as you said at the beginning, actually it ripples through to everyone, even, you know, the neurotypical workforce. Everyone benefits from having a working environment and an organization that supports its people in this way. Flo, what would you say are the top 3 tools that an employer, and I know it's really hard to narrow it down, but because we're short of time and because we want to sort of send everyone away with something that they can apply within their worlds quite easily, what would you say are like the top 3 tools that employers can apply into their world to help their neurodiverse workforce?
I guess having your HR team quite aware. Again, it doesn't mean like them having like an insane list of potential accommodations, but it's more understanding that there might be a need to support the people that, again, maybe got a very recent diagnosis and have no idea what's going to be helpful for them.
Yeah.
Curiosity and compassion, and sometimes also ditching understanding, because very often when talking about neurodiversity, we all want to understand, which is amazing, but like, I'm a white French person, I will never ever understand the experience of a Black British person. No matter how much I try, no matter how much I want to learn, I will never understand their lived experience. And the same goes for neurodiversity. So going for curiosity and compassion is very often a lot more helpful.
Now that's very powerful, Flo. Thank you. Wow, we've come to the end of the session. I'm already getting some feedback. Marie and Kathy both said that this was an excellent session, and thank you so much, Flo. Wow, you are honestly, we are so very lucky to have you in our world, and I hope that we can do this again very soon. I'm just going to publish the poll so that even with my little typo, you can take that away and show whoever you want to show in your organizations that we're not the only ones, you know, dealing with this. These are challenges that we need to address. And I am going to send out a top 10 ways of practical and compassionate ways to reduce stress, to support people with neurodivergent that doesn't cost a penny. So hopefully that's a little, and Flo, I'll get you to check it first, make sure it's good enough. But again, you know, thank you so much. It's been so enlightening for me, and I hope everyone who's signed up, watching it live or is watching it in a recording, feels that it's going to make an impact in their worlds as well. Flo, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Mita. It's been great.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you, everyone. I'm going to ring off and say bye for now, but we hope to see you at another main event very soon. Bye, everyone.